Welcome to Walking the Haftarah. I'm Tyler Merwin, and this is Torah portion, SHOFTIM. This week's Torah portion is Deuteronomy 16:18 through 21:9. Our Haftarah this week is Isaiah 51:12 through 52:12. SHOFTIM means judges, as in the opening line of our portion it reads, "You shall appoint judges and officers in all your towns that Yod-Heh-Vav your God is giving you, according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment." Deuteronomy 16:18. This week we continue in the midst of Deuteronomy. Our portion this week is portion 2 of 3 that contain the bulk of the commandments in the book of Devarim. And our Haftarah this week is the 4th week of consolation from the book of Isaiah. So let's begin by reviewing this week's portion. Moses begins by telling them that they are to appoint judges and officers in all of their towns. This is the mature or in-the-land version of what Moses' father-in-law Jethro helped him set up back in Exodus 18, to have judges or leaders over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. You shall not pervert justice. You shall not show partiality. You shall not accept a bribe. For a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and subverts the cause of the righteous. Justice, and only justice, you shall follow, that you may live and inherit the land that Yod-Heh-Vav your God is giving you. Deuteronomy 16:19 and 20. If everyone in all of our legal systems today would all truly just follow this, even though that the law that they are actually administering is a Torah, the world would still be a much, much better place. Justice is to be just. Next, we are told about the death penalty for idol worship and the requirement that in any capital case, one that involves the death penalty, must have a minimum of 2 to 3 witnesses. Even if the person is guilty, if there are not 2 to 3 witnesses, the death penalty is not given. Now, even go back to Sodom and Gomorrah. Adonai even sent 2 angels into the city, even though he knew exactly what was going on because he's God. He still sent 2 witnesses to be witnesses to see the atrocious acts before he put down the death judgment. And it says that the hands of the witnesses are to be the first ones to put to death the accused. Then we get into a hypothetical case that's discussed that goes all the way up to the high court, to the Kohen of the Sanhedrin, as it would be. The case is decided and the verdict is handed down, but this person rebels against the ruling. This person is understood to be a rebellious elder. That is, someone with influence and power, a person whose standing in their community can turn the hearts of the people against the judges of the Sanhedrin. So this isn't just somebody that this God didn't like the judgment that was passed down to him. This is someone who could influence the people and actually have them turn on the judges. This rebellious elder is to be put to death because this is a case of rebellion against Adonai and his court that he had set up. Then next we get into kings. When you come into the land that Yod-Heh-Vav your God is giving you, and you possess it and dwell in it, and then say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around me. You may indeed set a king over you, whom Yod-Heh-Vav your God will choose. One from among your brothers you shall set as king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you who is not your brother. Deuteronomy 17:14 and 15. The text goes on to list the commandments that were specifically made for kings. One of the main ones is that he was to actually write his own copy of the Torah and was to keep it with him. This copy must be approved by a priest, proofread to make sure that it was indeed accurate and true. And he was to read from it all the days of his life, so that his heart may not be lifted up above his brothers, and that he may not turn aside from the commandment, either to the right hand or to the left, so that he may continue long in his kingdom, he and his children in Israel. Deuteronomy 17:20. Next, we cover the importance of the first fruits offerings that are given to sustain the priesthood, as they, again, do not have an inheritance in the land. Then Moses warns that there shall be none among them that offers their children to idols, and there shall be no diviners, or fortune-tellers, or sorcerers, or mediums, or necromancers, as all of these are abomination to Adonai. I will raise up from them a prophet like you from among their brothers, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And whoever will not listen to my words that he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him. Deuteronomy 18:18 through 19. This is known as the prophet. This, of course, is speaking of Messiah Yeshua. And this is the testimony of John, when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Christ." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" And he said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No," in John 1:19 through 21. Yeshua came in the first century as the suffering servant, Mashiach ben Yosef. The Messiah, yes, but not the Mashiach ben David, the conquering king and ruler Messiah that they were actually inquiring about. He is also the prophet, but will not completely fulfill that role either until his return and second coming. And he told his disciples plainly that Yochanan, John the Immerser, was Elijah for them at their time. Yeshua is coming again, and Elijah will herald his coming once again. The text goes on to condemn prophets who speak falsely in Adonai's name or speak in the names of other gods. Chapter 19 goes on to review the cities of refuge that were to be set up once they settled in the land, a place for the manslayer to flee. 3 cities were to be set up initially, and an additional 3 that were to be added with future growth and expansion of the land. If a malicious witness arises to accuse a person of wrongdoing, then both parties to the dispute shall appear before Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, before the priest and the judges who are in office in those days. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he had meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. Deuteronomy 19:16 through 19. This is one of the aspects of Adonai's law that I would love to see instituted today. Next, we go on to cover war. Men were released from combat service for 3 different categories. One who built a house but didn't dedicate it, one who planted a vineyard but hasn't enjoyed its fruit yet, and one who betrothed the wife but hasn't married her. Rabbi Foreman equated these 3 examples to Adonai's work actually in creation and the importance of actually completing them because they do mirror Adonai's work of creation. Adonai built a house. He created the earth for us to live in. He planted a vineyard, which was the Garden of Eden to place us in. And he betrothed the partner that he could have a relationship with, mankind, Adam or Adam. The text also says that anyone who was fearful and faint-hearted was to stay back, so that his fear would not be contagious among the troops. When you draw near to a city to fight against it, offer terms of peace to it, and if it responds to you peaceably, and it opens to you, then all the people who are found in it shall do forced labor for you and shall serve you. Deuteronomy 20:10 and 11. Peace was to be offered as the first option. If they declined, then war would ensue. But in the cities of these peoples that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh your God is giving you for an inheritance, you shall save alive nothing that breathes, but you shall devote them to complete destruction, the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh your God has commanded, that they may not teach you to do according to all of their abominable practices that they have done for their gods. So you sinned against Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh your God. Deuteronomy 20, 16 through 18. Now this wasn't normal war, like we spoke of before. This is actually judgment from Adonai. Our portion ends with how to deal with unsolved murder. If it's in the open country, the nearest city was to take responsibility for it by performing a ritual that involves killing a heifer that has never been worked, and an oath speaking to the innocence of shedding blood. This brings us to our Haftarah this week. This week is week 4 of 7 of our Haftarah of consolation, and this week back in Isaiah 51:12 through 52:12. I am he who comforts you. Who are you that you are afraid of man who dies, of the Son of Man who is made like grass, and have forgotten Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, your Maker, who stretched out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth, and you fear continually all the day because of the wrath of the oppressor, when he sets himself to destroy. And where is the wrath of the oppressor? Isaiah 51:12 and 13. Adonai assures his people that it is him and him alone who is the comforter of Israel. And Isaiah contrasts the fear of man to the fear of Adonai. He who is bowed down shall speedily be released. He shall not die and go down to the pit, neither shall his bread be lacking. I am Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh your God, who stirs up the sea so that its waves roar. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh of hosts is his name. And I have put my words in your mouth and covered you in the shadow of my hand, establishing the heavens and laying the foundations of the earth, and saying to Zion, you are my people. Verses 14 through 16. If we remain humble before Adonai, to be bowed down, his awesome might and power will protect and deliver us. Wake yourself, stand up, O Jerusalem, you who have drunk from the hand of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh the cup of his wrath, who have drunk to the dregs the bowl, the cup of staggering. There is none to guide her among all the sons that she has borne. There is none to take her by the hand among all the sons that she has brought up. Verses 17 and 18. The cup of wrath is the exile, and the dregs are the bottom of the bowl, meaning that it's over. There's no more judgment to drink. It's time to awaken, to repent, and to prepare. Her children are also drunk in exile. Therefore, they cannot help one another in their drunkenness. These two things have happened to you. Who will console you? Devastation and destruction, famine and sword. Who will comfort you? Your sons have fainted. They lie at the head of every street like an antelope in the net. They are full of the wrath of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the rebuke of your God. Verses 19 and 20. Devastation and famine and destruction and sword are the two things that have happened to Israel. But also prophetically, the destruction of both temples and both exiles. No human or nation can comfort them, for the judgment of Adonai cannot be comforted. Therefore hear this, you who are afflicted, who are drunk, but not with wine. Thus says your Lord, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, your God, who pleads the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken from your hand the cup of staggering. The bowl of my wrath you shall drink no more. And I will put it into the hand of your tormentors, who have said to you, bow down that we may pass over. And you have made your back like the ground and like the street for them to pass over. Verses 21 through 23. They are drunk from the punishment of Adonai, but the punishment is over. The cup of wrath, the judgment, is being given over to their enemies, who thought to walk over them like pavement. That time has passed. The exile and the judgment are behind us, and our Redeemer, Yeshua, is coming for his bride. Awake, awake, put on your strength, O Zion, put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for there shall no more come into you the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake yourself from the dust and arise. Be seated, O Jerusalem. Loose the bonds from your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. Isaiah 52, 1 and 2. This is speaking of the end of days and the messianic redemption, where no uncircumcised or unclean thing shall enter the holy city. Awake, awake is the call to the bride to be awakened to the coming of her bridegroom Yeshua, and then to quickly dress herself in her beautiful wedding garments. The dust and the bonds of exile and captivity cannot come with us when we return. For thus says Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, you were sold for nothing, and you shall be redeemed without money. For thus says the Lord Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, my people went down at the first into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrian oppressed them for nothing. Now therefore, what have I here, declares Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, seeing that my people are taken away for nothing? Their rulers wail, declares Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, and continually all the day my name is despised. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore in that day they shall know that it is I who speak. Here I am. Verses 3 through 6. We were sold for nothing because it was actually our sin and our abandonment of Adonai that actually brought us into captivity. But we will be redeemed without money because our blessed Redeemer, Yeshua, already paid the price with his shed blood. Israel willingly went into Egypt, who oppressed them, but Assyria had no such claim. The redeemed people will know the name of their Redeemer, Yeshua, which means salvation, and Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who publishes peace, who brings good news of happiness, who publishes salvation, who says to Zion, your God reigns. The voice of your watchmen, they lift up their voice. Together they sing for joy. For eye to eye, they see the return of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh to Zion. Verses 7 and 8. The feet of Messiah are coming back upon the mountains in his triumphant return. He will bring peace, and he will bring his salvation with him. And speaking of Messiah, in Zechariah 14:4, it says, on that day, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives, the beautiful feet on the mountain, that lies before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall be split into two from east to west by a very wide valley, so that one half of the mount shall move northward and the other half southward. Break forth together into singing, you waste places of Jerusalem, for Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh has comforted his people. He has redeemed Jerusalem. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh has bared his holy arm before the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. Isaiah 52, 9 and 10. Adonai will bear his holy arm to all the nations, and they will behold the salvation, the Yeshua, that comes from him. Depart, depart, go out from there, touch no unclean thing. Go out from the midst of her. Purify yourselves, you who bear the vessels of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. For you shall not go out in haste, and you shall not go out in flight. For Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard. Verses 11 and 12. Depart from exile, and don't bring the worthless, unclean things of exile with you. This return will not be like leaving Egypt, which was done in haste. This time, there will be no fear or travail, because our God goes before us and behind us. Be encouraged and be renewed, and let us eagerly look forward to the day that is soon approaching. I pray this teaching has been edifying. Let's lift up the name of the Holy One. With love and echad, shalom.